Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the council public meeting for Tuesday, September the 9th, here in the council chambers. Just before we get started, for the benefit of those attending both in person and online, tonight is not a normal council meeting. It's a council public meeting, which we do have regularly, but it is a time where we, it's the first opportunity under the Planning Act to be presenting and hearing comments about any given application, this one or any other one that comes forward. And we won't be making any final decisions tonight on approving or not approving this item tonight, but it is a time where the public is invited to make comments, and we're here to listen, and all of the comments will be referred back to our planning staff as this application, like any other at this point in the process, continues its way through the planning process. So you'll hear in a little while that the motion that will pass tonight is to refer all comments back to staff. So having said that, and most importantly, everybody is welcome to make comments, and frankly, if you think of something after this meeting at 2 o'clock in the morning or something, write it down, because like me, I might forget it, but make sure you write that into the planning staff too, because we can still accept comments after tonight's meeting as well. Okay, so I need a motion to call the meeting to order, to adopt the agenda. I'll call the meeting to the order. Scott Thompson, Councillor Thompson moved, and Councillor Davidson seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you. Disclosures of pecuniary interest of the general nature thereof. Seeing none. So we have one item tonight on the agenda, which is a request for comments, zoning bylaw amendment, draft plan of subdivision for 263 Oxford Crescent. And the planner for the city is Dia Metroja. Is the J? You say the J? All right, I said it right. Okay, come on up. If you can just let us know about this application, and then after that, we'll ask the applicant to speak.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. The first and only item tonight involves the zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision applications to permit a residential development on the lands municipally known as 263 Oxford Street. The subject property is located on the south side of Oxford Street, east of Bathurst Street. The lands have a frontage of approximately 31.39 meters, which is about 103 feet, along Oxford Street, and a total lot area of approximately 0.42 hectares, which is about 1.04 acres. The lands currently support a single detached dwelling that is to be demolished to facilitate the proposed development. The subject lands are designated neighborhood in the city's official plan. The neighborhood designation permits low and medium density residential uses, including single detached and semi-detached dwellings, subject to specific criteria. In terms of zoning, the property is currently zoned second density residential, R2 zone, under bylaw 2523 as amended, which permits single detached dwellings subject to specific building and lot standards, but not semi-detached dwellings. The zoning bylaw amendment seeks to rezone the subject property to the single detached for R4 zone under bylaw 2523 as amended, with site-specific provisions. The R4 zone permits single and semi-detached dwellings, home occupations, and institutional and recreational uses subject to specific criteria. The development proposal involves the creation of 2 single detached dwellings fronting onto Oxford Street and 8 semi-detached dwellings fronting onto the future easterly extension of Derezi Court on the subject lands. Staff have circulated the applications to internal departments and external agencies for review and comments. The purpose of the report is to provide council and the public with an overview of the applicant's development proposal and has been structured for information purposes only, with a recommendation that all comments be referred back to staff for further consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for the applicant, who is for the applicant? Oh, I'm sorry, Alyssa Woods of Marshall Smith, KLM Planning. So, Ms. Smith, if you want to come forward, you've got 5 minutes to address council.
Good evening, everyone, members of council and the public. My name is Alyssa Woods, and I'm here on behalf of Pine Walk Estates, Inc., who are the owners of 263 Oxford Street in the city of Richmond Hill. I wanted to thank everyone for your time this evening. I'll try not to take up too much time and leave some time for questions at the end. A lot of this will be a summary of what Dia just said, so thank you for that. Oh, sorry about that. So as mentioned, the subject lands are located in the southeast quadrant of the intersection of Oxford Street and Bathurst Street in the Mill Pond neighborhood, and the lands are currently occupied by a two-story single detached dwelling with associated landscape and parking, and approximately 0.4 hectares in size with 30 meters of frontage on Oxford Street. As you can see on the context map, the subject lands are in proximity to a number of parks and transit stops. Of particular note, of the development is the development immediately to the east of the subject lands, which is comprised of three-story semi-detached dwellings, as well as the Dereze Court, which was built as part of that development. This area is designated priority infill area in the city's official plan, which has allowed for the diversification of unit typologies in the neighborhood. So these lands are designated neighborhood areas in the City of Richmond Hill official plan, which permits single and semi-detached dwellings with a maximum height of 3 stories. The proposed development conforms to the policies of this designation and implements the official plan. Within the zoning bylaw, the subject lands are zoned second density residential, which permits single detached dwellings but does not permit semi-detached dwellings, so a zoning bylaw amendment is proposed. The development proposal is consisting of 10 residential dwellings, 2 of which are single detached and 8 of which are 3-story semi-detached with frontage on the future extension of Dereze Court. This Dereze Court was constructed as part of the adjacent residential development and currently terminates with a cul-de-sac immediately to the east of the subject lands. The development proposal will propose to extend Dereze Court westward through the center of the subject lands to provide access to the 8 proposed semi-detached dwelling units. Dereze Court is proposed to terminate at the western edge of the subject lands with a temporary cul-de-sac, anticipating that the remaining lands westward may develop at some point in the future. On the screen, you can see the draft plan of subdivision, which implements the proposed development with 2 lots for the single detached dwellings, 4 blocks with the semi-detached dwellings, a 20-meter wide street for the extension of Dereze Court, with a 0.3 meter reserve and a small open space block to allow for the future extension of Dereze Court, should that be anticipated in the future. As mentioned, a zoning bylaw amendment is sought to rezone the lands to the R4 zone, which permits single and semi-detached dwelling units. This zone implements the neighborhood designation of the official plan and is consistent with the emerging infill character of the surrounding area. The zoning bylaw amendment proposed for this property is in keeping with a development that occurred immediately to the east, which is approved and facilitated the development of semi-detached dwellings, including the construction of Dereze Court. On the screen, you can see some conceptual renderings of the single detached dwellings, which will front onto Oxford Street. These are 2-story units in a transitional form that takes elements from both the traditional architecture that already exists on Oxford Street and blends it with some contemporary elements that will complement the recent and future development of this area. These are high-quality architectural materials, including a combination of brick, stone veneer, and modern panel accents, with large windows, a double-car garage, a covered front porch supported by dark columns, and a centered stairway. Similarly, these are conceptual renderings of the semi-detached dwelling units, which will front onto the proposed extension of Dereze Court. Again, these are modern contemporary townhouse designs with flat or sloped roofs. High-quality architectural materials are being used, and the facades are varied in terms of color scheme to add visual interest. In support of this application, a number of technical documents, reports, and plans were prepared, which are listed on the screen, all of which were prepared by technical experts in their fields. I'd like to thank you all again for your time this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions, and should any additional questions arise, my email is also on the screen, and I'm happy to take any questions that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Woods. Okay, so We do not have anybody signed up online, I don't think, to speak, so we'll open it up for to the public. So if there anybody in the audience, could come on up and we need you to state your name and address for the record, and then you've got 5 minutes to address council. So thank you for being here. Sure. Uh-oh. They'll see it on there. It's going to be on the screen, so they'll be able to see it. So yeah, no problem. And actually, can I have one more? Thank you. Yep, we do. That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I live not far from Lennox Park, which is an approximately 2.5 acre or 1 hectare park bordered by Cedar Avenue, Palmer Avenue, south of Major Mackenzie, west of the train tracks. Several years ago, 6 oak trees were planted in this park. Of these 6 trees planted, 5 have died, and 1 survives quite precariously. The cost of planting 1 tree is $800. So these 6 trees planted cost Richmond Hill $4,800. As 5 have died, the cost to replace them, if the city decides to replace them, would be $4,000. Richmond Hill has 165 parks. If we estimate that each park lost 1 tree, the annual cost of these lost trees is 165 times $800, which is $132,000 per year. This estimate of 1 tree lost per park is probably an underestimate. I propose the following to reduce the high cost of replacing trees that have died. So that would be A. Prioritize trees that have been planted in parks for watering once per week. Given that the annual cost of losing these trees exceeds $100,000, there is a strong financial incentive to save these trees. It is possible to water each recently planted tree, and by that I mean up to 5 years, and that allows the roots to develop. And after that, they're probably able to maintain themselves. Once per week in the 165 parks, if organized properly. For the trees, and B, for the trees along roads in front of houses, I propose a campaign by the City of Richmond Hill, something like Partners to Preserve Our Urban Forest. A card could be included with the mailing out of the spring tax bill or the spring water bill. The message would be that residents and the City of Richmond Hill are partners in preserving our urban trees, and requesting residents water the city tree planted in front of their house from June through to September. Presently, when a tree is planted in front of a residence, there is a card that should be left at the residence where the tree is planted, encouraging the homeowner to take care of the tree. After talking with 2 homeowners down the street from where I live, they indicated that no such card was left at their residence. So as part of the solution to save our urban forest, I would urge the city to ensure that these cards, which are already printed up, are left when a tree is planted in front of a house. As climate change is happening, I believe the city should prepare for many dry summers in the future, which will ensure survival of our urban forest. In conclusion, I believe the City of Richmond Hill could save in excess of $100,000 per year. By saving our urban trees, the city will have a more beautiful and green landscape. I mean, you can't put a dollar value on a more beautiful and green Richmond Hill. Future generations will appreciate Council's foresight of ensuring the flourishing of our urban forest. Thank you. And I just want to add that figure of $800 per tree planted, that was given to me by one of the City of Richmond Hills arborists.
Okay. Thanks very much, Mr. Green.
Thank you.
In actual fact, this is a council public meeting and we're really speaking about a particular application. But
Right.
why don't you give myself or the local councillor Silovitz a shout later and we can direct you to another forum that you're able to speak at that is probably more germane to that conversation. But if we could do that offline, that would be great.
Yeah, go ahead. No, let's just get the ball rolling. I
No,
mean,
thanks
we
very
have
much.
between now and next spring.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks
Okay,
very much.
thank you,
The best
Mr. Mayor.
time to plant a tree was yesterday, apparently. But the second best is today.
Oh, and the
Right,
next
thanks
best
very
will be
much.
tomorrow.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, anybody else on this application? Don't be shy. We're very friendly up here.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. My name is Paula Luchensky, and I live at 64 Baynard's Lane. I just have a few comments about this development. And I think I've spoken to Dia about this as well. I'm not opposed to the development. I just wish it weren't happening. And right now, there have been houses built behind our homes, and they are quite the eyesore. They have white plaster, and they really stand out. We have had the benefit of having a beautiful backyard for 21 years that we've lived there. So my real concern is about the trees that are on the other side of the fence. And I see that there is some kind of tree preservation I see in the plans, and I'm just interested in knowing more about the tree preservation plan and exactly what that entails. Because right now there are a few trees that do have X's on them on the other side of our fence. And I would assume that that means they're meant to be chopped down, which would change our entire backyard. And I believe that's it.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I'll ask that question in a few minutes of staff. We get some more information for you.
Okay,
Okay, thanks so much.
thank you.
Okay, anybody else would like to speak to this particular application? Yep. Good evening, sir. Welcome to council. If you just state your name and address for the record.
Okay, good evening. My name is Sheldon Drabinski, and I live at 66 Baynard's Lane, and 100% of my property backs onto the proposed development. And there's going to be some major issues as far as my property goes. Like the house on your right here is going to go right into my garage. And the person who buys that house is not going to like it. On top of that, my property has the main drainage ditch for the whole area. And that goes underneath my gazebo. And so I'm going to have to make sure that the planning and the construction does not destroy the whole drainage for the whole area. That means everything on Oxford Street and Baynard's Lane is diverted through my property. There's the main storm sewer receptacle is there. And if that's disrupted and not done properly, whammo, we've all flood out.
Mhm.
So we're going to have to look at that properly. Also, with the number of homes being constructed, nobody really has one car these days, and the semi-detached homes only have one car garages. I can't see where there's going to be any anybody going to be able to do any on-street parking. And of course, in Richmond Hill, you don't allow on-street parking unless you get a permit. So this is going to be an issue, basically for, as far as I can see, for the whole area. And again, to back up my neighbor and everything like that, we have absolutely beautiful trees in the back. Now, I can't see them keeping the trees because they're big, they're old, and they take up a lot of, but we do want some more preservation of of vegetation in Richmond Hill. And I can see losing those trees, they'll never get them back. And again, backing up what my neighbor said, we've had development in the area. My house just barely backs onto the previous development there. And it's not really compatible with what, the existing architecture is on Baynard's Lane and in the Mill Pond area and everything like that. But look, that's the way everything is done. But I want to make sure that Richmond Hill takes into account the drainage situation in that area, because I could, if it's not done properly, my whole gazebo that I have in my backyard will collapse. Okay, they'll be constructing, they'll be digging out in the back there and whammo, because it backs right onto the fence that backs onto that 267 Oxford Street. So we have to make sure that that's taken care of as far as that goes. Thank you very much for allowing me this evening to
No,
talk.
thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Is there anybody else that would like to make comments on this application? Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, we'll bring this back to council. Councillor Tree actually has just had to leave kind of unexpectedly due to a little family emergency that he's having. So what I'll do is I'll ask, I told him that I would make some comments on his behalf, but Regional Local Councillor DePaulo, if you could get us started and move that motion to refer all comments back to staff.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to move the motion that these comments be taken forward and moved back to staff. And as you said at the beginning of the meeting, this is just the first meeting and the first official meeting in a process for that any other application undergoes. And as the representative for the applicant said, they've submitted a number of plans. It looks like about a dozen, but I'm sure in there's a grading plan, and that's going to ensure that they are not, any excess water runoff that's created from the building of these 10 units is going to be contained within the property or properly mitigated against, so it's not causing any additional water to be borne by other residents, any additional stormwater runoff. And the tree plan that's been submitted will be reviewed by our staff, and our staff will go out to the property and make sure that there's as many trees as possible preserved. And I know it's a beautiful area. You get down the end of Oxford, and it's those large mature trees that really make the neighborhood. And and I think there's some acceptance on the part of the people that live in the area and an understanding that things do evolve and change as when there's infill like this in this neighborhood. But all attempts will be made to preserve as many trees as possible within the site. Their tree preservation plan will be reviewed, and if it's inadequate, it'll it won't come forward with a recommendation. So our staff will do their analysis on all the plans that were submitted and all the technical the studies that have been provided by the applicant, and then they'll provide council with their opinions, their recommendations based on those submissions. But the public will have another opportunity, and you have the opportunity from now until council meets to formally consider this, to make your case known. You will get more information. This report will be published prior to our council meeting, and you can have a look at that. And if you have any additional comments at that time, either in writing or in person when we meet, we want to hear from the public. We want the neighborhood to be satisfied that the town is taking all efforts to limit the potential harm or damage to the neighboring properties, and just to make sure that within the guidelines of our new official plan and the infill intentions here, that the neighborhood is not altered improperly through this application. So take any opportunity to call the local counselor, my office, the mayor's office, anyone up here, and have your say and your comments like you have today, and it's been heard and it's been recorded, and we will continue to give you feedback, members of the public, and as we go along, and hopefully at the end of the day we'll arrive at something before council that everyone can, if not be 100% happy, that at least their concerns will be addressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Okay, I need a seconder for this motion. Councillor Davidson, any comments?
Thank you, and thank you everyone who came. Thank you, staff, and thank you. This is the very beginning of the process, as the mayor said. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask staff. So one of the delegates mentioned that there are houses being built that are stucco, I think, and they don't fit in with the neighborhood. Can you explain what, if any, control this council or the city have over the design of a building, the exterior or the interior?
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson. So the staff will try to enforce architectural guidelines that have been established for this area as part of previous approvals. However, legislative changes have happened that do not allow the city to have as much architectural control over residential dwellings. So we typically, through the review of an application, try to provide the feedback to kind of assimilate new development into existing areas, but we do have limited control over exteriors, and as well as we have no control over the interiors, and we have limited control over exteriors in the last 2 years as a result of legislative changes.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So when you say legislative changes, you mean province-wide from Queen's Park?
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson, that is correct.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, does the city prioritize old trees? Is it accurate to say that the city will endeavor to either negotiate or to try to, do we have any teeth to say this is an old 100-year-old oak tree or a 50-year-old oak tree? We don't want it torn up. What kind of prioritizing do older trees and greenery get from a planning perspective?
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson. So there is always an objective to preserve as much mature trees as possible. Through any development application, we will work with the applicant to relocate driveways. We will make sure that the siting of the buildings, to the extent possible, do take into consideration those mature trees, or just the volume of trees where feasible. Older trees, unless they're designated heritage for some reason, are not afforded necessarily protection. So if we do know that there is or if they are considered endangered species, i.e. butternut trees. So we do not have authority to kind of protect trees as much as we would like, but we do try to work with applicants to the greatest extent possible, as one of the city's goals is to kind of preserve its tree canopy across the city.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, my last question is, there was mention by the applicant, I think, that there are already semis on this street. Is that a different zoned area, or did those semis go through, sorry to spring this on you, I could have asked you yesterday, but I didn't realize. Was that a new zoning application, or is there something different about this neighborhood for single family homes?
Through the chair to Councillor Davidson. So Derezi Court was actually an infill development. Derezi Court did not exist. So all of the homes on Derezi Court were similar to this application insofar as they've come in through an infill draft plan of subdivision and zoning amendment application similar to the one that is in front of us tonight.
And through you, Mr. Chair, an infill designation would include semis, for example.
through the chair to Councillor Davidson, so infill development is not necessarily, does not establish permissions. The neighborhood designation of the site, in accordance with the official plan, allows for singles and semis in the neighborhood designation, and townhouses subject to locational criteria, which this proposal doesn't meet.
Thank you.
Okay, and you'll second that? Yep. Okay, any other comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll just make a few comments. I'm quite familiar with this area. I noticed in the staff report, and by the way, for those in the audience, there is a staff report available. Somebody could have mine. We'll raffle it off at the end of the meeting. But it is available online as well. So I noticed in the staff report, there is not any mention yet of issues around trees and tree preservation. So can you kind of give us an idea, to the extent that you can, on what we're going to be doing in this particular case around trees specifically, or if we haven't got that far yet in the process, generally speaking, what we would do in that case?
So we have received comments with respect to the application in front of us. And the applicant has proposed a tree inventory preservation plan and arbus report to support that. Currently, there's a total of about 63 trees, 40 of which are on the site, 17 are adjacent. Through the development proposal, they're proposing to preserve about 14 of them. And so they're removing about 49. So there is opportunity through the remaining review of the application to minimize to the greatest extent possible. For example, relocate driveways to minimize tree loss. But generally speaking, we're in that range. As I mentioned before, we typically try to work with applicants to preserve as much trees as possible where we know that a property is highly vegetated. And we will do that in accordance with the tree preservation bylaw to the greatest extent
Okay,
possible.
I think most of the issue, the way I understand it right now, is probably the trees at the back of the property.
Yep.
That are backing onto the lots on Baynard's Lane. And I mean, I know that we'll do this, but I'm just like to reiterate that, as many of those trees as we can, particularly towards what is now the fence line there, I think is really the most effective things that we can preserve here to preserve privacy and views and all that kind of stuff. So, and then I would imagine also at some point in the process, there may be opportunities to plant additional trees in lieu of the ones that were taken down because there was no choice in the matter, right?
Correct.
Okay. The second issue that I just wanted to touch on is drainage, and that is a very good point. I just want to assure you that drainage is actually a really big part of any application, and if there are swales and so on in that area, then that will be a particular feature that will have to be considered as this application goes forward. But it's really, really important that we get the drainage right, particularly with larger storms and so on. So we will be doing that, and that will be a big part of the process going forward. And the last thing I just wanted to say, based on some of the comments, was I do agree with the comment that was made about the design of the buildings. I mean, this is a really nice area of town, and I will expect the applicant to do the best that they can on the color palette, the materials that you're using, and the design of the building as much as you can. I mean, I realize that we no longer as a municipality have the ultimate control that we might have even used to have about design, but honestly, this is an area that we're not going to chintz out on quality of materials and the look of the building, because it is, it's backing onto Heritage Estates, which is a really nice and well done character area of our community. So anything that you can do to help with that blending in with the character of the area, I think would be definitely a good idea. And something I would be hoping for when we see any sort of final recommendation to approve this as it moves along through the planning process. So, so those would be my comments at this point. So unless there's anything else, we need to vote on the motion to approve or to refer all comments back to staff. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. And we now need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Davidson, Regional Local Councillor DiPaolo, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much, everybody.